And yet any other country around the planet would probably chew their arm off to have the volume and revenue our system has, even with its reduced scope. There's a lot of strength in this system, and it's a key part of our economy that a lot of folks depend upon. And one of the reasons that is because the hardworking men and women in the United States Postal Service. And we have folks here today who are out there on the workroom floor every day. There's some familiar faces again here that we've connected from my own stomping grounds in Northern.
The financial situation in the Postal Service is still quite precarious, and in our review of the actual prices that the Postal Service sets for products and the costs for it, we indicated that there were areas in which prices did not cover cost and in which work-sharing discounts are greater than the savings the Postal Service has from those work-sharing exercises. We have Congressman Sean Maloney from New York, the upper suburbs of New York, and this is the first time that we've had a congressman actually come to our meetings to
thanking you again, and thanking you on behalf of the hardworking folks in the Hudson Valley who are going to be impacted by the consolidation, the proposed consolidation of the Mid-Hudson Postal and Distribution Center in Newburgh, New York. I've recently moved my office to Newburgh, New York because it's the crossroads of the district, and it's also an area that desperately needs the employment that accompanies this distribution center, and it's an outstanding community in which to locate a distribution center. You know, as their member of Congress, as the member of Congress who represents Newburgh and the Hudson Valley, I want to be their advocate to ensure that everything possible can be done to minimize the impact of a potential consolidation on these hardworking folks in my community. And if that means doing what no member has done before, which is testifying before all of you, then I welcome that opportunity. I do so in order to ensure that the PRC carefully considers, I do it to encourage you to carefully consider a complaint filed by Debbie Soretti, who's the president of the Mid-Hudson area local. She will be joining us today as well. You know, this complaint asks you to utilize your enforcement tools to cease the implementation of these nationwide accelerated closures. And since a complaint of this nature has never been filed, to my knowledge, before the PRC, it presents you with an opportunity to really establish a precedent about how you're going to approach these issues. And so I would encourage you to pay special attention to this, because it will determine your level of oversight, and the attention you pay to this consolidation will determine in some ways the precedent for how you approach these going forward. And therefore I think, in addition to the other issues that are so important, it really underscores the need to get this one right. Now, as you know, as the primary regulator of the Postal Service, your core responsibility, of course, is to ensure the transparency and accountability of Postal Service operations that have a nationwide impact on service. The consolidation of the Mid-Hudson facility offers some insights, I believe, into the Postal Service's unfortunate decision to accelerate the nationwide consolidations of 71 mail processing facilities this year instead of next year. You know, like sequestration, the Congress has, as I alluded to, manufactured, I believe, this crisis in the postal system by passing previous legislation that requires the pre-funding of the retirement system. Once again, we're confronted with a situation where Congress is creating a problem, and then many of us have to scramble to try to minimize the impact of that problem on real people. We've seen this movie before several times in recent weeks, but this is a very specific example of where bad decisions by a previous Congress are impacting real folks in the Hudson Valley. So I'm working in Congress to try to correct some of these mistakes. I'm a co-sponsor of HR 630, which would, I believe, correct many of the problems we've created for our postal system and for the communities that depend on it and the people who work there and do a great job. The people of the Hudson Valley, who I represent, and particularly the folks working there, are frankly outraged by the decision of the Postal Service to rush this consolidation an entire year earlier than the original deadline. Although it was announced in May of 2012 that the facility would be scheduled for consolidation, the employees and communities were also promised that these facilities would remain open during this year to allow enough time for Congress to do what I'm talking about, which is fix some of the mistakes we ourselves have created. And we're working on that. And we have serious concerns that these closures are not fiscally prudent and do not use the updated information that we now have to make these decisions in an informed way. For example, the area mail processing study of the Hudson Valley that was conducted over 2 years ago, since that time, there have been many changes to the plant, including many retirees, many new cost savings, and the APW contract allows for the hiring of support employees at a lower pay scale. So the circumstances have changed on the ground. I've heard from folks like Michelle Murphy, who's raised her daughter and son in the Hudson Valley, that she's worried about trying to start again somewhere else. She doesn't have enough years to consider retirement. I've heard from Nora Mendez, who's worried about her boys and their schools and being forced to move 100 miles away to keep her job. These decisions have a real impact on hundreds of people in a community that is struggling already. So if my presence here today does anything, I hope it underscores the fact that what we do, those of us who have responsibilities for these issues, what we do affects real people. And there are real people who are going to be impacted. Some of them are here today, and I hope you will carefully listen to their stories, because they matter. And they're people who've been ignored and made invisible too often by some of the decisions that have been made by the previous Congress. So thank you again for allowing me to speak before you and for allowing me to depart early.
I'm here for my office and my members who are suffering right now because of the advancement of the notice that 55 offices, including the Hudson, are going to be advanced for taking mail out of our facility. The most important thing is that just not our local, but I have been in contact with the majority of the 55 offices who have been affected over the last 2 weeks. All of them want to file a complaint, obviously here, because they would like to see the PRC do something effectively to stop the advancement. A number of the presidents from around the country explained to me about their AMP studies being 4 years old, 5 years old, some 3 years old. Ours is 2.5 years old. That type of information is very outdated. As you know, we had an early out. We lost a lot of employees. And now with the new contract that came in 2011, we have new employees. And so we are helping with the unemployment lines because we have now a new employee, postal support employee. They're making $10 less and working side by side with us, but that is a major cost savings. That is not in any of those AMP studies. And as you also know, we just won an NLRB award, which stated that the Postal Service over 2 years ago should have provided the unions with all the documentation involving the studies. The feasibility studies we received were redacted. We had to go to the Labor Board to try to get them unredacted. Now the board has made that decision, obviously 2 years too late, and now we're asking that you step in, direct the Postal Service to redo these AMP studies. And we do know that you supported our feelings as well, that the service standard should not change. But you gave an advisory opinion. And so what we're looking for is some action. We really do need your help. You know, you hear it all the time. Well, the PRC, all they do is and file paperwork. We believe that you can do something and you can step in. It says that in your mission statement. It says that on your website. So that's what we're here for today, and we hope that you will take some action and at least hold these 55 that have been advanced, direct the Postal Service to hold off. But we need the time. And the real problem here about the postal financial situation, it has nothing to do with our service, has nothing to do with the revenue we're bringing in. It has to do with that the PAEA, because that PAEA, as you all know, has cost us $5.1 billion every year. Obviously, we haven't even paid it the last couple of years. Why? Because it's just too much money for us to be able to continue to pay. And again, that's something that Congress has to deal with, but we need that time. And we just hope that you will assist us.
My name is Dina Briscoe, and I'm president for Nation's Capital Southern Maryland Area Local for American Postal Workers Union. I didn't plan to speak today, but I thank you for the opportunity. I'm fighting for the people in Southern Maryland, the constituents, the workers, and the businesses. Basically, Southern Maryland PNDC is a very viable building for the Postal Service or area. It has a NDC, it has a PNDC, it has a CBF, it has 2 vehicle maintenance offices, shops, it has a surface transit site. It's right on the line of the Beltway, which extends towards the Southern Maryland further area out and the suburban area. The mail right now, the Postal Service has done 2 examples in our district to move the mail. One was the 206 mail that's already been moved into 207, and that's for cancellation and for processing. Then the mail has to go back to 206 to be sorted again, prepared by the clerks there to go out to the carriers. So that's already causing major delay for the people who live in Southern Maryland. We have a lot of rural areas in Southern Maryland, and people need their mail in a more timely manner. Another example of the Postal Service management making these type of changes was when they sold 2 of the buildings. I represent the same employees in the Bethesda area, which is a 208 office, but it falls under my jurisdiction. They sold 2 of the buildings to save money, and they rerouted the employees to different places. They end up they were leasing the building from the people they bought it from, end up having to pay more money to them. So they end up having to leave the building, find other places to move the employees. So now they're purchasing 2 more buildings. So I don't see this as cost savings. And these examples of these movements, they haven't proven to save money. It's ended up costing the service more, and it's displacing employees. Some of these employees still don't have a permanent work site. They're working in different offices, which are pretty crowded. I would ask the Postal Regulatory Commission if you could help the Postal Service to look at ways of growing versus depleting service and quality services to people in our district. Thank you.
I'm an example of an excess person. I actually live in New Jersey. My facility in New Jersey closed 2010. I was access to Mid-Hudson. I've been there. I would love to stay there, even though I got to travel over an hour now to my work. My husband also works for the Postal Service, but he works over an hour the other direction. So if they do go ahead and close Newburgh, I'm not sure what's going to happen. If they ended up saying, all right, you got to go to Albany, that's 3 hours from my house. So I guess I'm looking, I'm sure there's other people out there who have problems, who are married, who want to stay where they are. And this lady had mentioned about delay of the mail. It's only going to get worse. You start closing these facilities, there's going to be more delay in mail because they're not going to be able to get the mail there in time, especially in the wintertime. You get Albany, forget it, with the snow and everything up there, they're talking about taking some more mail, going up there, sorting some of it, bring it back to us so we can sort it again to get it out to the AOs. I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. So I feel, like Debbie said, please, if you could, or I think you can, help us, keep these facilities open. Hopefully the government will wake up and say, all right, now we got to do something, no more delays.
Joe Sheldon, I'm president of Red Bank Area Local out of New Jersey. I know you're an advisory group. You can't make the post office do anything. You can only issue an opinion. I know they today or yesterday decided to not go to the 5-day delivery because we're going to wait to see if Congress, in their infinite wisdom, can resolve some of these problems with the post office. Why not advise them to wait on the AMP studies for these 55 until they come up with the same thing? Congressman Maloney was very eloquent in where he spoke, and I wish he was my congressman. What he stated was, it was quite clear, is that there were bills in the House. I think it's House Resolution 630 by Congressman Bernie Sanders, or no, I'm sorry. That's, Lynch is 1351. Point being, that congressmen have offered plenty of resolutions to solve the postal problems. The chairman of the Government Oversight Committee has refused to allow these votes to come up before Congress on the floor, as Congressman Darrell Issa. He is a problem to the United States Postal Office. He is intent on destroying the Postal Service. He hasn't offered any solutions except to destroy the Postal Service. We and our congressmen have offered, and advocates of the Postal Service have offered numerous bills over and over again, House Resolution 1351, Senate Bill 630, and such, to solve the problems. These votes need to come before the House and the Senate for a vote. Maybe you can advise Congress to bring it to the floor for a vote so we can get this over with once and for all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Barrington. I just recently took the buyout order from the United States Postal Service back in January. I've done just about every job there can be done. I've been a carrier, I've been an officer in charge, I've been a city carrier, a rural carrier, a clerk, everything. And this is a purposeful plan for destruction of our labor unions. What I will say is that I have been proud to work under the red, white, and blue. And that's what the United States Postal Service stands for. And I am quite upset that the Postmaster General seems to be violating one of the oaths that I took when I entered in 1975, and that is no purposeful delay of the mail and the sanctity of the mail. And it seems that this has been a plan in place for 30 years to privatize the Postal Service and come up with all kinds of deceitful reports to keep people in jobs and take away our jobs. And I love this country. I love the President of the United States of America. And I want us to all work together.
My name is Brenda Farrell, and I'm from the Richmond PDC. I thank you for this opportunity. I hope you find that my remarks are appropriate to this meeting today. I have found that what's been happening in the service in the recent past, that is the removal of collection boxes from the streets, the closing of offices, and the reducing of hours of operation, and now the threat of a reduction to 5-day delivery is unconscionable. It is contributing to the Postal Service's demise. The USPS is still a vital part of our economic health. My husband is a small businessman who, as many others do, depends on the USPS to deliver his product. Too many of our citizens are not connected to the internet, and that disconnect predominantly affects the elderly, the poor, and rural constituents. I myself am connected, but I prefer the privacy and security of the USPS for my correspondence. I am aware that first-class letters are decreasing, but parcels, because of people who ship them like my husband, is increasing. It is, in fact, the pre-funding of retirees' health care that is the biggest drain to the USPS at present. Repeal this legislation and broaden the mandate of the Postal Service to ensure its future viability. This is what our nation needs from this commission. Banking has been mentioned as an option to grow the service, other licensing, voter mail. We need to grow the service and not destroy it. If the USPS is the delivery provider for the final mile for private shippers, when the USPS is privatized and after the profit is wrung from it, the government will still have to subsidize the costs for those unprofitable addresses, but will no longer have the profitable addresses to act as counterbalance. We already own the United States Postal Service and have been paying for its development over the last 200 plus years by using it. It does not cost those citizens who prefer not to use it. There are no tax monies involved. The government has a responsibility and a need to be connected with every citizen in every neighborhood. Right now, that connection is provided by the USPS. If there should be a domestic terrorist attack, the USPS is in place to deliver medicines and assistance. If there should be a disruption to our cyber communities, there's already a backup in place. Only now, with the degrading of service, it is not as effective as it has been in the past. The Postal Service is essential to the citizens of this nation for the foreseeable future. Let us make the choices to see it grow and prosper into the future, and it will be the foundation for a growing economy and a prosperous nation. speaking solely from my own personal standpoint, I was accessed from the Charlottesville facility into the Richmond facility. We are now having the Norfolk mail access from their facility also into the Richmond facility. It's causing a great deal of confusion and delay of the mail. It's degrading the service, and it's not necessary. You know, we have a wonderful postal service. It's doing good things. The people who are working for it, when I came out of the military in the mid-70s, postal service was one of the options that I had to still continue my federal service. Right now, it's very highly representative of women, veterans, the disabled, and other minorities. And you know, I don't want to see those jobs go away, and I don't think there's any reason that they should have to go away. But thank you very much for taking the time.
I'm Joe Brown. For the last 2 years, I've been an activist working very intimately with the postal workers, the stewards, the union presidents, people like Dina. And everybody I meet on a daily basis, because I wear the shirts. I have 3 of them. I keep putting them through my laundry. And they're all in favor of keeping 6-day delivery. They're in keeping opening the post office to keep it open. As you know, the GAO report recently said we've already funded the 6-day. It's in the law. Congress has voted on it. You know, this Postmaster General cannot unilaterally just say we're not going to do this or that when Congress already has mandated it. Okay. And by the way, I'm appalled by the actions and statements of this Postmaster General. I don't know what he's saying or what he's doing or who's he for anymore. I don't think he supports USPS, in my opinion. You know, working with these workers and the public every day who depend on the mail from the USPS. Of utmost importance, of course, has been spoken, and you all know very well, the rescinding of the $5.5 billion prepayment. No government agency or no corporation requires this. Why are they prepaying such future health benefits for people who haven't even joined the post office yet or not even born in some cases? So Saturday business is a big business day. When I take petition or I go to my local post office to talk to people, up till 4 o'clock, if it's still open at 4 o'clock or 12 o'clock, they have big boxes of mail they're taking to the post office, and they love to get their mail and post office delivered to their house. Because this keeps 7 million people who are running businesses around the USPS. That you all do a wonderful job as Regulatory Commission running, as we've heard today. I mean, I'm impressed by what I've heard in the last hour and a half. It's my first post-regulatory meeting. I'd like to come back again. So, I don't know what else I can say, but these are great people. They're hardworking. They've all said it this morning and this afternoon. And I'm going to continue my work. We're going to go up in the Hill today and talk to a few more congressmen and senators like we've been doing and sending emails out. And the community supports us. They really do. The top-rated agency for the last 10 years, United States of America, United States Postal Service. Thanks to you, thanks to them, thanks to everybody working together. So let's keep up the good work.
Philadelphia had the highest rate of deep poverty in the country. Whenever you're cutting jobs, you're affecting these communities that need middle-class jobs, that allows people to send their kids to college. Every time you close a processing plant, a post office, when you reduce hours, you're affecting people in those communities. Your responsibility is not to the businesses, but to the people who live in this country. The post office closings especially affect seniors, the disabled, the incarcerated, immigrants, rural communities, people without permanent housing. They really rely on the post office, and every time you make it more difficult for people to get to a post office or to buy those products, you're affecting those communities. So this year is the 45th anniversary of Martin Luther King's Poor People's March. It's going to be commemorated again in a march from Baltimore to Washington. Many of these people are the victims of this economy, of the recession that continues, the sequestration and austerity. These are all victims of the people in Washington who are mismanaging this economy, and the PRC, which is mismanaging the post office. So I would invite everyone who's a postal worker to take part in that march. on May 11th and 12th. And I actually invite the PRC members to come and meet the people that you're affecting so much. Thank you.
I'm a great believer in the anecdotal information we get from individuals. You can always assume that if somebody's complaining that there's 10 people or more who didn't bother. But we will look at the complaints that you filed, and we will consider the comments that you've made about efficiency and service, and we'll see what it is possible that we can either advise the Postal Service to do or